Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday, it is February 11th, it's 2020. We have 5 basketball games to talk about here on today's slate. I am joined by my good buddy, Jordan Cooper. Blenderhd, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. I mean, I was on the right side of RHJ versus Chris Boucher, which was essentially that's what if you played cash on Draftkings tonight. That's pretty much what it was. You probably did well anyway. So apparently, the theme of this NBA season is that when there's a lot of chalk, just jam them all in.
It was even hard to get away from like the chalk guys in like tournaments today, just because like they were just such good plays. So I don't know. I hate when that happens, but when the slate is not priced for Giannis to sit and Giannis sits, like obviously that's gonna break slates, like, and that's gonna happen.
And then Ibaka sits, and then
Yep.
we get all this news, and then it's like, oh, okay, I guess we got to play Giannis the next game, right? The baby narrative.
Baby narrative, yeah. Well, it depends on what his price is and who they're playing. So
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's a baby narrative. 17-4, who cares?
he'll get like that, like, 28 minutes, 70 fantasy point game. So, but anyway, we move on. We have a 5-game slate and we have 4 Vegas totals the night before. So we're waiting on a little bit of injury news on this slate, but we have a lot going into this one. So that means obviously there's going to be a lot of news that comes out tomorrow just because I said that and I totally just jinxed it. But ready to jump into this one. We start here with the Clippers at the 76ers, 226 total in this game. Philly favored by a half a point. Patrick Beverley is the only injury news that we have in this game. What are we looking at here for the Clippers?
I think this is a game that is going to be more interesting to watch than to roster. With all the Clippers healthy now, I think everyone is fairly efficiently priced. I mean, they do have Marcus Morris now in the rotation. But, I mean, he's not going to have a major role with both Kawhi and Paul George playing. Lou Williams is priced appropriately. Harrell is, I mean, essentially, they're other than Beverly, they're all healthy. But, I mean, the guys that would be in for Beverly are guys like Shamet and Magruder and guys that really have no usage anyway. So, like, you could play a Kawhi at 9,300. I think this is going to be a competitive game. But I don't see, like, subsidiary pieces here. Like, I'm going to either play, like, Kawhi or Paul George, and then I don't really care about anyone else.
Yeah, like, I don't think I'm going to use, like, Terrence Mann here or any of these guys. Like, Terrence Mann would play 15 minutes off the bench here with no Beverly, I would guess. But yeah, like for me, like if I think this game is going to be competitive, any game that the Clippers are going to be competitive in, like I have interest in Lou Williams. He's a guy that could easily go for, 40 plus fantasy points. And I only like to play him in competitive games. And with this game expected to be so close, I think he's the guy that I end up like taking the shot on here for the Clippers. But I have no issues playing Kawhi. I have no issues playing Paul George. I do think this game stays competitive. And then, like you said, Marcus Morris, maybe Pete picks up a few extra minutes here. I think he ends up around like 26 to 27 minutes. At 5,100, I would kind of want him to be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, but I mean, you could obviously take a shot, GPP, low own, something like that. But, I mean, essentially, I view this game as if I play a guy on the Clippers, I'm probably playing a guy on the 76ers.
Well, let's talk 76ers here. Obviously not the best matchup in the world for some of these guys. What are we looking at when it comes to the 76ers?
Well, I mean, I think Embiid at 9,100 on DraftKings is definitely playable against the Clippers front court. Toby Harris, I mean, a revenge game, I guess. He played for the Clippers for like half the season or something. 6,200, I mean, he could get hot. Ben Simmons always is a triple-double threat. I think the only guy that I will have zero of, literally zero, is Furkan Korkmaz at 4,500 because in the past 2 games he's turned into essentially, I don't know, Michael Jordan or whatever. He's like shooting like 8 million %. People are going to look at the game logs. They're not going to realize that Burks didn't even play the last game Maybe he gets minutes. Glenn Robinson's there now. Josh Richardson healthy. So I think other than the fact that he just was shooting hot and they just kept him out there, like if you take a look at his past 2 games, and if that was his average, you'd definitely play him at 4,500 on DraftKings. But like that's not sustainable, and the minutes aren't even secure. So to me, like if I'm going to play Kawhi or Paul George, I'm probably going to play Embiid, Simmons, or Harris. Horford is a shell of himself essentially, and playing at the 4 in this role. I mean, I guess you could go there. I mean, I wouldn't, but I'm just hoping Korkmaz is double-digit owned on a 5-game slate, because will be more than happy to fade him.
Yeah, like I'm probably not going there either. Like you said, Burks, Richardson, Robinson, like there's too many pieces here now. So for me, I like Embiid at 9,100. They don't really have anybody to kind of match up with Embiid, but like he's a guy that he can go for 60 plus fantasy points in any matchup. It just depends on if he's feeling it that game or not. It feels like I don't know. I will say like he's kind of lost that brace on his left hand, so we don't really have to worry about that anymore. So I think Embiid probably my main target here from Philly. I don't mind Tobias at 6,200. I'm going to play plenty of minutes in this game. And then, like you said, Horford, I feel like Horford's a guy we're going to be talking about a lot in the playoffs, playing him in the playoffs. Like, he's going to be a guy that is going to be underpriced in the playoffs, and we're going to be talking about him a lot. He's going to be popping in projection models. So, moving on, we got Chicago at Washington. I feel like this is the DFS game that everybody's going to be talking about here. 230 total. Washington's favored by 2.5 in this game. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. Dunn is out. Markkanen is out. Porter is out. Valentine is doubtful. And then on the Washington side, Bryant is out. Let's start here with Chicago. You start with Zach LaVine, right? Like, he's a stud on this slate, in my opinion, and he's not like 9K plus.
Right. I mean, he's getting the best matchup, essentially the best matchup in the entire league against the Wizards. I mean, I'm interested in, LaVine, Satoransky, Young. I mean, I could even take a shot on like a Cornet, Kobe White off the bench, Hutchinson at 4,600. I mean, I have no problem getting to any of these guys. It's just a matter in GPP of which guys do I play together, which guys have negative correlation, like can they hit their ceilings together? But we've seen in high total games, I mean, we saw in the Grizzlies game that went under. People jumped on board, and people got snowflakes. So this may be, because it's an early game especially, that it's a game that maybe you take certain pieces of, not full stack or anything, see what happens, and then you have all the leverage you want later, and you can do tons of late swaps. But if I'm going to play one guy in this game, it's going to be Zach LaVine on both sites, on DraftKings and FanDuel, because in this matchup, I mean, he could put up 60 points. But if he doesn't, the point that I'm making is that if he doesn't, I don't see Chicago only scoring 80 points in this game. So if LaVine has a snowflake game, I'm expecting one or two of these other guys like Young, Satoransky, Hutchinson, White, Cornet, like Archie Diacono, to get enough points for their salary that you'd want to have them.
Yeah, so I like Kobe White a lot here as a value play. I like Hutchinson a lot as a value play. Satoransky, love him as a value play. I don't mind playing a couple of these guys together. Like you said, it's an amazing matchup. It's, amazing pace up spot for Chicago. They're middle of the road. They're 16th in pace this season. We know Washington's a top 5 team in pace. We know Washington doesn't play any defense. So you don't get a better upgrade than a matchup against Washington if you're a guard in general. So love the Chicago guys, especially with all these guys out. So really not going to be able to talk me off of anybody on the Chicago side. I'd be using my groups, though. Roster construction, I feel like, is very important when you're looking at Chicago here. The Washington side of things, if you're playing, 2, potentially 3 Chicago players, you're probably running it back with, a Bradley Beal, Bertans, Hachimura. Ish Smith, one of these guys or two of these guys, like I could see myself using like a 4-man game stack in this game.
Well, definitely. Obviously, I would prefer in GPP to do, if you're going to do like a 2-1, a 3-1, something like that, not playing Levine and Beal together, because it's going to limit your cheap options in all the other games, which there may not be as many. So I think I'm more likely. I mean, we've already said this is a high total game. This is probably the best DFS game on the slate. So I'm not saying that to get away from things, but I could see playing Beal with like Satoransky and Hutchinson. But if I'm playing Levine, then I'm playing him with like Ish Smith and Davis Bertans. Like, so I could condense that stack to be a lower salary. So then I could take like better players in the other games. So really, that's my only standpoint here. I like everyone. I mean, I'll even play Troy Brown Jr. or Napier off the bench at their prices at low 4Ks. The problem is just you make your groups so you're not grouping people together. And the front court to me is the more interesting part against Chicago. Playing Hachimura, Bertans, Mo Wagner, Mahinmi. I mean, it's a lot of bodies. So it's a matter of which player you want to take a shot on. But I could definitely see one of the front court players having a ceiling game.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised here if Shabazz Napier is a guy that like sneaks into a big tournament play, large field tournaments, just because he shot 0 for 7 in his second game against Memphis and still put up 17 fantasy points. So like this is a guy that maybe they bump him up a few extra minutes here. And at 4,200, I think Shabazz Napier is a guy that has a ton of upside here. I really just hope he doesn't get a ton of like ownership, but I think
I don't
also
say that. Oh, no, out of all these guys, I think like Ish Smith is only 500, 600 more, and he starts. If anything, Ish would get more ownership. That's why, like, I'm looking at like Brown and Napier as like those are the sneaky plays.
All right, I just want to make sure like I'm not going crazy here. I think Napier would be under the radar, but all right, moving on. We got San Antonio at OKC, 220.5 total here. Thunder favored by 6.5 in this game. Basley is the only guy out. DeRozan, back spasms, got ruled out Monday.
After lock.
Yeah, it was just one of those, like, it was just the
Popovich,
craziness.
We got popped. We normally don't get popped anymore with the injury reporting now. We got popped.
I don't know. Did we get popped or was DeRozan really banged up? Like,
we know. No, they look at the Bulls. They put everyone in the injury report. We don't know what's happening. They're trying to skirt around the rules. Maybe they knew DDR was going to be out. They're like, just have back spasms a couple of minutes and you'll be
fine. So obviously we don't have an injury report coming into this one for the Spurs. We'll have to kind of see, but they've been kind of terrible this season on back-to-backs. So is there anything standing out to you for San Antonio?
Well, I mean, if everyone's healthy, I mean, you could play DeRozan or Aldridge. I mean, they're 7,200, 6,700. To me, I view the Spurs from a GPP perspective as like, I'll only play them if I'm also playing Thunder players because, like you said, this is a road back-to-back against a good defensive team in a slow-paced matchup. So, like, if they hit their ceilings, I'm going to have to assume it's a close enough game that I want to play Thunder players with them. So, to me, it's either if I'm playing any of these guys, if I'm playing Murray or Mills or Rudy Gay at minimum or anything like this, like, I want to have Thunder with them, but like nothing specifically stands out because the Spurs on a back-to-back with Pop there. I don't even know what these rotations are going to be. So in like GPPs, I could see like sprinkling Derek White in, sprinkling a Bryn Forbes in, and just they get 32 minutes all of a sudden, and Dejounte Murray gets 36 minutes or he gets 14. So yeah, and they're cheap enough to take shots on, but if I were to pick one out, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it's all going to depend on DeRozan. If DeRozan sits, I think Forbes 3,500. I think White at 4K. Like these guys become interesting tournament plays because it's a back-to-back. I think like DeJounte Murray becomes like the guy that maybe loses the minutes on the back-to-back with them kind of just limiting him all season. So I was quickly trying to pull it up. This game's almost over. They're playing in Denver. This game's almost over. So it looked like LaMarcus played 34. DeJounte Murray played 33. Lyles played 28, and Forbes played 28. White only played 18 minutes. Lonnie Walker played 27 minutes. So I think Lonnie Walker, if DeRozan's out, he's another guy you can kind of throw into the mix. So we're just going to have to kind of watch the injury news. But I have a hard time, DeJounte Murray's going to end up playing 34, 35 minutes in this game on Monday. Are they really going to roll him back out there for more than 25 minutes? They've been very careful with him this year.
Yeah, Derek White season.
Derek White season, indeed. So, the Thunder side of things, these guys are cheap. They're all under 7K. I don't love the Thunder here, but I like the pricing. Paul, SGA, Schroeder, Adams, Gallinari, all these guys are just cheap. And it's not like the Spurs play great defense and the Spurs are on a back-to-back. The only issues that I have is does this game stay close?
I think it doesn't matter at these prices. I think you're more likely out of the bunch to play Gallo at 5,800 on DraftKings because he's small forward eligible, and you're going to see small forward is not the greatest of positions. So if you're able to fill that spot with Gallo, power forward, something like that, I think that's more beneficial than at point guard where we have options in that price range. We may want to take a point guard from depending on the news from New Orleans. I'm viewing Chris Paul as, do I want to play Paul or do I want to play Holiday or Ball? Do I want to play Paul or do I want to play Levine? I just the Thunder guards rate out as secondary plays only because I think other guys on the slate are better. Just at small forward, power forward, I think Gallo under 6K maybe is not a ceiling play, but I think in cash games you definitely play.
Yeah, I have no issues taking shots on any of the Thunder guys. I would be very careful, how many teams I build with each one of them. But outside of that, I think that you definitely have some upside at these prices. Just their price plays for me. And like you said, it's really going to depend on what happens with Brandon Ingram in this next game. Portland at New Orleans, no total in this game. Collins, Mario Hezonja, Rodney Hood, Little, all these guys are still out for Portland. And on the New Orleans side, Ingram is questionable. Miller and Williams remain out. Let's start here with Portland. There are going to be a couple guys down here, but, man, I know he's not been playing great, but Carmelo Anthony at 4,900, he's going to be popular, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, Ariza had that big game, played 40 minutes and put up a big score. I could see Ariza being for 600 cheaper, being popular.
It seems like pricing is really soft today.
Yeah, but you still have to make choices. You can't fit all these guys in a lineup. Me personally, the best play on Portland continues to be Whiteside at 8,100. I don't mind playing McCollum at 6,400. The only guy that I will likely, even on a 5-game slate, have zero of is Damian Lillard over 10K because last time we were on the podcast, I said I'm having zero, and he put up a snowflake game. So
it was a snowflake game,
right? So that I'm morning grind game comes. You know what my answer to one question would be. It's going to be not playing Damian Lillard at 10-3 on draft.
Yeah, I don't mind Dame here. I just feel like he's not going to be the type of it's just not going to be that type of build for me today. I'm probably going to live in the 8K range and on these value guys and try to get more, 3 or 4 of these guys instead of playing maybe 1 or 2 10K guys. So I don't mind him, but I think it's a better matchup for Whiteside. I think Whiteside could absolutely smash in this matchup at 8,100. CJ McCollum, if I'm not playing Lillard, I don't mind taking a shot on McCollum. Melo, like I said, his price, Ariza, like you said. But yeah, outside of that, Ariza, I hope people look at the 9-minute game against Utah. He got ejected in that game. So, on the New Orleans side, obviously it all depends on Brandon Ingram. He's dealing with an ankle injury. They held him out of practice on Monday. They're hopeful he plays, but, we'll kind of have to just see because if Ingram's out, it makes this game so much more interesting.
Definitely. But even if Ingram's in, okay, I'm going to ask you, Stevie. I know I'm going by like basketball terms and not like mathematical stuff, but sometimes you have to figure it in, and that's what projection models do. Who plays the 4 for Portland?
Probably Melo, right?
So why wouldn't you want to play Zion Williamson?
Yeah, that's true.
Like if Zion's going to play,
Against Melo,
right? He's up to good minutes. So, like if Ingram's out, like it makes Zion even a better play. But if Ingram's out, like I don't mind playing Ball, Holiday, Williamson. Favors, not so much. I mean, when Portland when Whiteside comes out, like a lot of times like Anthony is playing the 5, or they have Swanigan come in or whatever. So like I don't see Favors minutes being affected by Ingram whatsoever. It just makes it like, okay, maybe you play a JJ Redick at 4,500, just the usage goes around a little bit more. But in my opinion, that I think Zion may be the best play from the Pelicans regardless. And then if Ingram's out, then I want to play the guards. Then Ball and Holiday become much more interesting to me.
So it's a pretty small sample. Obviously, Zion only activated here over the last few weeks, and 35.7% usage rate, averaging 1.65 fantasy points per minute with Ingram off the floor. So only 80-minute sample size, but obviously we can kind of – the writing's on the wall, and it's a matchup with Melo. Like, couldn't agree more with you on Zion in this spot. Even if Ingram plays, I still have interest in Zion. If Ingram sits, I agree with you. Drew, Lonzo, these guys become interesting plays. If Ingram sits, I think Josh Hart becomes a really interesting play as well. My only issue with Hart, and this is kind of like a catch-22, I don't like the price tag, but I do feel like the price tag could keep him lower owned even with Ingram off the floor, because we have all those value guys that we talked about with Chicago. We talked about a couple of guys with Washington, so San Antonio potentially has some value. So, like, I think Josh Hart being a little bit more expensive than some of those value guys, Hart might fly a little bit under the radar here. So if Ingram sits, like, I think Hart's really interesting as well. Maybe even JJ Redick.
Right, but that's only if Ingram sits. If Ingram sits yeah. Hart, I'm not paying $5,100 for Hart.
Zero interest if Ingram doesn't sit. Yeah. So if Ingram plays, really the only guy that I have interest in is Zion. Like, I wouldn't mind taking a tournament shot or two on like Lonzo, but yeah, Zion would be the guy for me. Zion's gonna crush in this matchup. He should crush in this. He should.
He's not going to. He should. High probability.
Boston at Houston, 230.5 total here. Houston favored by 2.5. Both these teams kind of getting healthy here. Robert Williams out, Eric Gordon out. That's really the only injury news that we have going into this one. Jaylen Brown, these guys are expected to play. So let's start here with Boston. Everybody coming back. It's a great matchup going up against Houston. This should be one of those games that we have like 3 really, even potentially even like 4 really stackable games on this slate.
I think this is the game that's going to maybe the Clippers, Sixers, people don't pay attention as much to. I just think in this game, with Boston being healthy, people aren't going to want to play these guys at these prices. And with the Rockets and Harden and Westbrook, people are going to rather play like Zach LaVine or Kawhi or Embiid or, Drew Holiday or Ingram. Like, there are other people at those price points that, like, out of all the games, for a game to have a 230 total, this may even be the under-owned game of the slate. And just like I said with the Clippers-Sixers game, where if I'm going to play Kawhi, I'm playing Embiid. I'm playing one of each side. I feel like this is a very similar game. That if I probably will not play more than one Celtic with them all healthy. You can play Tatum, you can play Kemba, you can play Hayward, you can play Brown, you can play any of these guys. But I only play one of them at these prices. And then on the other side, I play Harden and Westbrook. And I think the combination of that, from what I could tell based on these prices in the context of the slate, I think will be an under-owned combination. And if you told me that Kemba put up 50 and Harden put up 75, or Westbrook put up 65, like, you wouldn't be shocked. And these guys, for a 5-game slate may come in much less owned than they really should be.
See, I love Kimba here. I hope he kind of flies under the radar. Like, I love Kimba. I've talked about it so many times this season on this podcast. If we look at like his pace up games, they're so much more productive than his non-pace up games. Houston plays at the second fastest pace in the NBA. This game's in Houston. This game's going to go faster. This game could go really small. Like we might not see like a lot of Cantor and Tice. Like this could be one of those games that like smashes the over of 230.5. That's just back and forth, back and forth. So I like Kimba a lot for tournaments. I don't think he'll be an optimal cash game play. I wouldn't really talk you off of it, but I think there's going to be better routes in cash. But I think he's a fantastic tournament play. I think Gordon Hayward is another guy. They don't really have anybody to kind of match up with Gordon Hayward defensively. So I think Gordon Hayward is another guy. Like I would be very careful on playing like Kimba and Hayward together or Tatum together. Like, but I have no issues rolling these guys out there. Houston, they allow the 5th most fantasy points per game. It's just this is going to be a good spot for Boston overall. It's just this game's going small. Like, get ready. I would not be playing Tice and Cantor here. Tice came back the other night and played like 30 minutes in his first game back. Good for him. I just don't see this game. I just see these guys playing small. And like I see Tatum potentially playing the 5 at points of this game.
I agree, and that's why on the Rockets side, I mean, obviously you have Harden and Westbrook, but I really think that you could play Covington House. You could play a PJ Tucker center against the Celtics because this is the type of game where Tucker playing the 5 actually does make sense, right? He doesn't have to match up against a traditional center, so I think he could get much more involved in both sides of the ball. Get rebounds, get layups, and play almost like the Capella role against Daniel Tice. So I think in the past matchups we've seen Tucker, we've been just looking, going, how the hell is he going to guard Gobert, or how is he going to guard Towns or something like that? I think people are going to look and go, what should I play? Trevor Ariza, or should I play PJ Tucker? Should I play Carmelo Anthony? Should I play Daniel House? I think more people are going to go with the Portland guys. They're going to go with the Chicago guys at that price. They're going to go with the Josh Hart if Ingram's out. And I really think that for the total of this game, it's going to go under-owned because they really don't stand out individually as better plays than the other players on the slate, but they're not dramatically lower plays. So, like, you may get these guys at like a third of the ownership, and I'm willing to take a shot in GPP.
Oh man, yeah, I don't.
Is that
mind
a good old man or is that a bad old man?
I agree. I think Tucker is a guy like, this is a much better matchup than like facing like Rudy Gobert. like, if you look like, man, that Rudy, he had 3 rebounds. This dude's playing the big, like he's playing the center position, but. I think the guy that, we're going to be looking at and talking about a lot down the stretch here is Russell Westbrook. His rebound rate is going to go up with Capella gone. So 9,900, I think this is a spot that Russell Westbrook has triple-double upside. James Harden, he's going to shoot. He had a triple-double last game against Utah. I have no issues playing him. It's just 11-4. I think I do think he has a higher ceiling than Westbrook, but I think their ceilings are pretty close, and I get $1,500 discount, so I'm probably going to end up playing Westbrook over Harden most of the time here. So, all right, let's play the morning grind game. Cruising right along today. Favorite play under 5K to 7X. Who do you got?
I'll keep with the theme. PJ Tucker. I'm either going to be really right or really wrong.
Let's see. I want one of these Chicago guys. Is Kobe White under 5K? Is he under 5K?
Yeah.
That's what I want. Kobe White. All right, let's see. Over 8K to go under 5X. Lillard, right?
Yeah, that's the easiest one of the slate.
Already had it written down. You know what? I think Ben Simmons struggles in this game. I'm gonna go Ben Simmons. Favorite 6X play? Who do you got?
6X. That is okay. Let me look. Could be any price. Okay, because I got the weird one. Okay, I can't use that. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Hachamarera, as you would call
I butcher his name a lot too. That's fine. He still appreciates me talking about him. Let's see. Oh, there's like I'm like deciding on two guys. I'm gonna go with Kemba Walker. Let's get weird. GPP play. Who do you got?
Troy Brown Jr.
All right.
You take Napier. That's almost like the
I
same.
I already had it written down. So game selection question. I know you like to mix it up. What do you got for us today?
Okay, I never know what to say during this for game selection question. Okay, I do this often on the pregame show. If you watch at 11 a.m. Eastern, we do have a free show on YouTube. Like and subscribe. I'm on often, although we do have Kyle and Brett and Tuttle on as well. I review a lot of the slates, and I pointed out on this past show how recency bias affects the lower stakes way more than the higher stakes. So I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are playing the lower stakes, may not play in the 222, may not play in the $44, multi-entry type of thing. So guys like Korkmaz, like what I said before, like I'm not going to play any of them because of the game log watching, I'm pretty sure will be like 3 times as owned in like the $1 and one than he will be in like the 222. Like the smarter players are going to know that Korkmaz can't be sustainable and he's not going to get the minutes. I mean, maybe he ends up I'm turning wrong. It's wrong. He puts up another 50-point game. But in the lower stakes, his ownership is probably going to spike due to recency bias. Take advantage of that. So when you're calculating like who to play, who to fade, stuff like that, the guys that have had recent success that's not sustainable, be more inclined to fade in the lower stakes. In the higher stakes, people know that it's not sustainable, but who knows? Maybe it's sustainable for one more game. So if you're going to play someone like Furkan Korkmaz, maybe you do play them in a high-stakes contest because everyone else isn't going to play him. But in a low-stakes contest, you should do the reverse.
Speaking of low-stakes contests, I'm going to go to my low bankroll players today. I like to mix it up. The 5K elbow shot single entry tournament over there on DraftKings. It's a $2 buy-in tournament. Pays 23% of the field. Top 10's getting less than 30%. Somebody's going to turn $2 into $500. It's a really strong tournament if you're building a bankroll, if you're experimenting with single entry. It's a strategy. Like what Jordan was just saying. Like this is a $2 tournament. Obviously, it's going to be a lot different than the 222 or the $100 tournament. Ownership's obviously going to be way different in the $2 tournament. So take what you're learning and start working on these single entry tournaments and, work your way up, build that bankroll. So check out that $2 tournament over there on DraftKings. Elbow shot, 5K, $2 single entry. Favorite over-under, what do you got for us today?
Okay, here's the over-under that we're going to use today for the joke. It's not an over-under. It's more like a prop and more like a matchup bet. Which is going to be higher? Carmelo Anthony missed shots or Zion Williamson made shots against him? Field goals, just field goals.
I would take Melo.
You still think he's going to miss more shots than Zion makes?
Yeah. He's going to chuck. No, I don't know. Maybe Zion. I think that's a good one. I'd have to really think about it. Maybe I switch to Zion. I don't know. That one's close. All right. I'm over on Sharp Side. If you guys haven't checked out Sharp Side, we got the street contest going on over there on Sharp Side. The app is awesome. We're 5 for 5, Blender. We are at that point where we can start making some money here with this next pick. So I feel like the pressure's on. I'm 5 for my last 5. I've been rolling here. I've already locked this in. Like I've already swiped over. I've already locked this in. 11:30 at night. The night before, I'm taking Washington -2.5. I like the Wizards a lot to cover against Chicago. I also think you could take the over in this game. I think this game is going to go over, but I like Washington. I think Washington beats Chicago in this game. Lock it in.
Sure thing. I didn't think it happened.
Lock it in. 5 for 5. I'll mess up. I usually do over-unders, but any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm just waiting for PJ Tucker to give me 6 points.
All right, 6.5. 6.5. You might outscore Busher. That's going to wrap it up here for Tuesday. We'll be back finishing out week before All-Star break tomorrow, talking some more hoops. I hope everyone has an awesome day. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you then.